Yeah, Zakir. So moving on, I want to sort of cover the other stuff that is actually achieved.
Okay.
So namely, uh, yeah, so in terms of world-leading action to tackle air pollution and the climate emergency, Sadiq has introduced the world's largest clean air zone, the ULEZ, and helped to cut toxic air pollution by nearly half in central London. He's also launched a £500 million fund to cut carbon emissions and create green jobs. Obviously, everything has its pros and cons. There are people who are against the ULIS, but then again, we are living at a time where most countries, especially developed nations, are trying to cut emissions. And as part of that, he's introduced the ULIS, which is, popular amongst certain quarters, but at the same time, it's very unpopular amongst, the Asian or the cab trade industry. Um,
Yeah,
what's your take, Zagwe?
I think again, what you said is absolutely spot on. There are pros and cons, and I think we need to have a holistic view of this. I do agree that there are certain cars. I mean, I've seen um, many cars where they're not roadworthy. They're still being driven because they just happen to pass the MOT. So, in one sense, I do agree that there has to be some measures. Whether ULEZ and what it consists of is the right method, I I don't know. I can't say that it is or it is not, but some measure has to be put in place because again we have pollution problems. We have a world which is there's so much carbon emission, so there has to be something put in place, and ULEZ was put in place to achieve better quality air. Yes, for those who have cars which fall foul of the ULEZ, um,
Mm.
I can understand the anger or the frustration. But again, taking a holistic view, there are pros and cons, and you know it's one of those where you can't make everybody happy. You just can't. So, um, as someone who living in Tower Hamlets, knowing the amount of damage that the pollution is doing to our children's health, our children's lungs, I'm someone that supports it, but I do think that the mayor should have thought about some sort of compensation for those whose cars, you
Mm.
know, won't be roadworthy, or they'll need to pay more for a car which meets the ULEZ criteria. So it's not perfect, and it's again you'll have pros and cons, and it remains to be seen whether if
No,
it's
Zakir,
still
actually, he has a, like a project where if your car is, older than I think 10 years, you can hand it in and, they'll give you, I think, £2,500 to buy a new car, electric car. There is a program.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
there
but
is.
so that's good news.
Yeah. But
It but
it's not, I don't think it's mandatory as yet. People have the option to do it. That's the difference. Yeah.
I think, yeah. So again, with the electric cars, not everyone might be wanting to trade the car that they're comfortable with what's been offered by the ULEZ program. So it's one of those, you'll always have contentions, and I do think cleaner air in the long run would be better for all of us, for our health.
Um,
And it's unfortunate, really, that the poorer people, or those who have less means, are being affected by ULEZ more than any other parts of society. So, and my sympathies, absolutely, my sympathies for them. And I do think that with the offer that's been made, the 2,500 and up to 2,500, I think those who are affected should possibly look into that and see if that works for them.
Yeah, so moving on, obviously, I do want to sort of discuss about the resignation of the
Scottish
Scottish
First Minister.
First Minister Hamza Yusuf. So I'm just going to touch on some of the achievements that Sadiq has, and then move on to Hamza Yusuf's case.
Sure.
So he's encouraged cycling and boosted infrastructure. He has delivered a fivefold increase in protected cycling lanes, helping more Londoners to feel safe and confident in swapping four wheels for two. He has promoted active travel policies, including walking and cycling, that benefit the health of people and our planet. And also, he's introduced 1,400 zero emission buses on London's roads. Again, it helps the environment, which we all want. We want a clean
What?
air. We all want a clean society, a healthy society. Um, and then he's also been very business friendly. He has never stopped banging the drum for London as the best place in the world to invest, start,
Yeah.
and scale. London is gradually, believe me or not, is becoming the number one tech hub. Even it's. I think if things go according to plan, London will become the number one tech hub. Even beating like the likes of California. Like we know California
Ah,
is
yes.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it has worked flat out to attract jobs, talent, and tourism to our city, backing firms large and small to kickstart London's pandemic recovery and create growth, opportunities, and prosperity for our communities. Sadiq's growth agency, London and Partners, has brought on extra 1.52 billion pounds of gross value added and over 1 million additional tourists to the London economy since 2016.
Wow.
Um, right, he's also planted 500,000 trees across London, 330,000 new jobs created through City Hall initiatives. He also led the way on police reform. After a series of scandals, Sadiq took decisive action to put the Metropolitan Police on a path of far-reaching systematic and cultural reform, starting with the appointment of a new commissioner and an independent review to shine a light on the institutional racism, misogyny, and homophobia that still exist. He will not rest until Londoners have a police service that is representative, trusted, and truly fit for purpose. I really think that London is still underrepresented in terms of like BAME. Like if you look at the
Yeah.
police force, we definitely I think it's only like 1%, whereas the London's BAME community is about I think 20%, I think roughly. If I
Yeah. So there you go.
so we're
Absolutely.
really, really underrepresented. So I think he really needs to work on that. And the Met Police.
Yeah.
I know a few individuals who applied to join the Met and they were refused, like Asian people. So that's one area I think he really needs to work on.
I
Uh,
think they need quotas. They need actual quotas. For example, within the Labour Party, the way they have a certain, for women, certain for BAME backgrounds,
yeah,
and I think they need to really implement it. With the police force, the Met Police or other police forces around the country, there is always that I won't say stigma. There's reputation
hmm,
that there's institutional racism. So you won't get in high positions in
yeah,
proportion to the the percentage of BAME people within London, or even say for example, even within the force, if you have I
yeah,
don't know 100 BAME officers in say just for example, say 100, say 1,000 police officers of BAME background in the Met, in terms of positions or their ability to climb up, is
yeah.
very small. So it needs to be looked at. Absolutely needs to be looked at, and I think the police force definitely has to reflect the community they're serving. And at the moment, it's not doing that.
Yeah. Another program which he has, which I wasn't aware of, is a mentor for every young Londoner in need to help young people get the guidance and support they need to make the right choices in life. Sadiq is funding a flagship mentorship program across the city. This is giving young Londoners in need extra support so they can make the most of their talents. Um, Defending London's values. Sadiq has always stood up for London's values and openness, equality, and inclusion. Skilling up Londoners. Sadiq has introduced a major new skills offer for the capital with free training now available to any Londoner aged 19 and over who is unemployed, on a low income, or has limited formal education. He has also helped more than 1 million learners access courses through his adult skills programs. equipping Londoners with the knowledge and qualification they need to get into good work. That's one thing I really like. Like, he's trying to get London, really, in tune with the modern, era. Like he wants Londoners to be tech friendly and tech savvy. He's investing a lot of money in tech and training people up. That's a good thing. What's your take?
Sorry.
What's your take on that?
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I think the tech is the future. So absolutely, London has to be as the capital of the our capital of England, and if you want to call it UK, capital city. London definitely has to play a leading role. In order to do that, I think absolutely we need investment. Try and tap up the best and the brightest to go into this field. So absolutely, I think the tech is the way forward, and it would be really good to see London take its rightful position as one of the leaders, if not the leader when it comes to technology. And with AI and other things that have been planned, we do need to have our children within London, those of us who live in London, to be at the forefront and be able to contribute to society when it comes to technology. So definitely, I would definitely welcome his initiatives, and if he does get elected again, I would like to see that grow and take it to the next level.
Yeah, thank you, Zakir, for your feedback. So I want to move on to another subject, which I think is very important to you. Hamza Yusuf, who is the First Minister of Scotland, actually resigned just after a year in power. He represents the SNP, the Scottish National Party. Um, and I think what I gathered is that he was in a coalition government with the Green Party, and talks broke down. That is why he had to resign. But then, there is a new party called the Alba Party, which is led by Alex Salmond, who used to be
Yeah,
the former First Minister from the SNP. He formed that party, and he was supposed to cut a deal, but obviously that never went through. We don't know, personally, I don't know the nitty-gritty of the deal.
yeah,
It does, because these deals tend to happen behind closed doors. But
yeah,
it's a very sad day. Obviously, one thing I realized, Zakir, is that when I became active as a community activist, political activist, this is the first time in history of the UK where we had the Prime Minister of the UK, who is Indian. We have the Mayor of London, who is Pakistani origin. And then we have Hamza Yusuf, who is of Pakistani origin. And then we have the Labour leader in Scotland. His name is Anas Sarwar. Is also of Pakistani origin. And the one thing all of these people have in common is obviously they're Asian, but in Bain, and they also actually hail from Punjab, the region Punjab, Punjab is actually separated in two parts. There's one part in India and one part
yeah.
in Pakistan. Yeah. So Sadiq Khan and Hamza Yusuf hail from the Pakistani part, and also Anas Sarwar, and
Okay.
Rishi Sunak hails from the Indian Punjab. You see.
Okay. And
So, yeah, so I mean, obviously, as a Bain person myself, and I'm sure yourself, a lot of the Bain people were very, ecstatic, when we had all of these figures, leading major political parties. It was a milestone, in the history of the UK. But it's a very sad day, isn't it? Like he had to resign. What's your take?
Absolutely. What I would say as well is it's good that you mentioned the Punjab, and they're all from the Punjab. If you look at history, this is obviously, I'm just talking historical facts. It's not to cast aspersion on any community, but the Punjab region was very loyal to the British. So I think it's just the favor they're paying back. So most of the army, of the colonial army, they were from the Punjab.
Hmm.
It was the Punjab contingent that was used to suppress the rebellion in 1857. So I'm not surprised that if you want to call it, the BAME community from the Punjab region are scaling the the levels within the government, and it's an achievement for us. I mean, that's obviously just a bit of history. It's an achievement for us to see the BAME representatives within the government going to the top positions. I think also it's sad that Hamza Yusuf only survived a year. I did read up on it, and they're not giving much details on the main reasons why, other than saying that the deal with the Green Party broke down, and the Alba Party, and again there was meant to be some deal made, but from what Hamza has said himself, he's saying that he didn't want to sell his principles, and therefore he felt he had to resign. Now, what were those principles that he was having to tackle or give up or acquiesce? He did not mention that, or I haven't seen anything yet. So it's still open to interpretation. But you're absolutely right that within a year or so he had to resign, and it's sad for Hamza Yusuf, I'm sure, and sad for the BAME community as well.
Obviously, we will never know the nitty-gritty of the deals that were
Yeah.
being broken behind the closed doors. But what I heard from news and other sources is that Hamza Yusuf, whose pro-independence party, has been weakened by a campaign finance scandal, and divisions over transgender rights was brought down by a decision to oust the Green Party from his governing coalition because of differences over climate change goals. You see?
That's what I heard about the 75% carbon. Yes, I did read about that. But I do think it's more than that, because it's one of those where, because he's pro-independence, I think that's where the focus is, because Westminster does not want pro-independence candidates parties to flourish for many reasons. So I think that's probably one of the main reasons why that he didn't last for too long. I mean, if you look at Alex Salmond again, pro-independence, and something comes up, and he has to resign. Nicola
Sturgeon, yeah.
Again. So these pro-independence MPs and First Ministers are clearly being. It seems that there is some sort of I won't say agenda, but there's something there which is causing all these resignations. So you had Alex Salmond, Nicola Sturgeon, now Hamza Yusuf. So 3 strikes in a row. It can't just be a coincidence. So I think the story is more deeper than we've been led to believe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a very good point, actually. Obviously, Westminster would not want a pro-independence leader in power, and because of that, these people couldn't actually last. That could be a reason, because like it is bad as it is, like UK coming out of Europe. Can you imagine Scotland becoming independent? May make things even worse, because we do trade with Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, not Ireland, so Northern Ireland. And can you imagine if these nations actually were to separate? Would be
absolutely, and I think that's the fear, really,
weak.
and also
we're paying the price as it is. Like by coming out of Europe, we're paying
absolutely
really a hefty price. The cost of living crisis in the UK is much more worse than other European countries, believe me or not. Especially
yes,
the energy prices, everybody. Energy prices here have gone up over the last few years by tenfold, whereas in places like Germany and Austria, they've gone up by twofold or onefold. But here it's like tenfold. So that's the price we're paying because we came out of EU.
yeah, and I think also Scotland, when it came to, I think, the Brexit referendum, I do believe they were more pro-Euro than rest of the country. So I think there's quite a few things at play here, because if Scotland becomes independent, they may apply to go back to the European Union.
Exactly.
Then England is left in a situation where, if Scotland are better off by rejoining the EU, then it casts a bad light on England and those who are pro-Brexit, that we made the wrong decision. So there's, as I said, there's a lot to play here. in politics, nothing is done for no reason. There are no accidents. It's a planned. What the idea is behind it, I can't say, but nothing's done for no reason. There are no coincidences in politics.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Like, on one hand, they want to become independent from the UK. On the other hand, they're
Yeah,
actually EU.
yeah.
People say it's double standards, but
I think they just,
yeah,
I think they just want independence. So what it is, they want to be able to call their own shots. And also remember as well, Roba, if you look at the history between Scotland and England,
yeah,
they were at one stage in the 13th century, start of the 14th
yeah,
century, they were mortal enemies. Scotland
yeah,
fought for the independence, at the
yeah,
Battle of Bannockburn, and they got the independence in 1326. So, Scotland was under subjugation from the English for a while. So, when those, so there's that history element as well, where I do think they want to be, free from England, those who are pro-independence, but that's not something that's usually told to us. But if you look at the history,
yeah,
there will be those patriots who think, or who will say, we don't want to be part of England. We want to, our forefathers didn't give their blood so that we become a union with England. We want an independence again, and we want to be able to make our decisions. Why should Westminster,
yeah,
300-400 miles down south, make the decisions for us? So I think they feel their independence, not just as a country, but in terms of legislation and rules and laws, as to what they can enact themselves, and how they're dictated. Some of them feel dictated by Westminster.
yeah, yeah. Let's look at some of the candidates who might replace Hamza Yusuf. Obviously, I was watching the news, and a guy called John Swinney is
Okay,
runner.
that's the
Um, is quite a senior figure in the SNP. Actually thinking, I saw him talk on TV earlier in the day. He was giving an interview on Sky News. So he's actually considering running. And then we have Kate Forbes, who ran against Hamza Yusuf
yeah,
just a year ago. I think John Swinney represents the traditional view of the SNP members. And Kate Forbes, I think many people see her as the new generation leader,
yeah.
who might take SNP forward. So obviously, you know, John Swinney actually resigned from the SNP leaders post in 2004. So that's not
Okay.
a good sign.
No.
Um, he was a former leader of he resigned in 2004, and then in 2023, he ruled himself out of the leadership race because he cited that he wants to put his family first. That was the reason.
Okay.
Um, but then, obviously, a lot of people are backing him this time. So let's see what
Okay.
happens. Kate Forbes lost out narrowly against Hamza Yusuf, but she is seen as a very dynamic leader and a young leader.
Yeah.
She's also actually thinking about running for the leadership. Um, so yeah, so she I think lost by only 4%. Hamza Yusuf got 52% last time, and Kate Forbes got 48%. Um, that shows like she has a lot of support within the party. Um, yeah. So do you think obviously we've got the general elections coming up later this year, around November, December. That's what the Prime Minister said. He said at a later date.
Yeah.
Do you think the same do well after all the fiasco we've seen with the SNP?
Yeah. So I think with the SNP, I think it's Kate Forbes, her surname Forbes.
Yeah.
Um, I think she's got a good chance, given that she was so close to, um, beating Hamza Yusuf, and I think also given that Hamza Yusuf was again a young leader, I
Yeah.
think they may go for Kate because they want change and they want something new, and they want the energy, that Kate will bring. So I think I do feel she's probably got a better chance. And with the other candidate. Is it Paul? Is it Paul Sweeney? Yeah,
John Swinney.
sorry, beg your pardon, Johnson. Again, if he has resigned previously, in 2004 from the top post, for him to now come back, I think many questions will be asked. So I think Kate, because she hasn't been the leader before, she was in the race with Hamza Yusuf previously, and it was a close contest. I do think that she's got the better chance.
Yeah. Yes. So I think we've come to an end of the program. Thank you, Zakir Bhai, once again for your feedback. And
Thank you.
thank you to all the people who have watched the program. And until the next episode, goodbye.